Hello, I am Annie from Champagne Chaos. I am a mom of 3, a DIYer, perfectionist who takes way too long with projects, but I am here in this random hallway that connects our primary bathroom to our primary bedroom to talk you through how I created 8 hidden Murphy doors in this small space. It took me a long time, 6 months, so I'm going to break these videos into multiple parts. Part 1 is going to be this design that you see behind me. I used pieces from IKEA to create this expensive built-in look that opens up into storage behind it. So let's get into it. For those of you who don't know what a Murphy door is, it is just a hidden door. I don't even know if the technical term is Murphy door or if it's just the brand, but it is a hidden door, swinging door, pivot hinge door that hides something behind it, whether it's a room, whether it's storage, whatever. So I've always wanted one. I just didn't think I would go straight from 0 to 8 in such a short period of time. This has challenged me in ways that I didn't know possible. I watched a ton of videos to see how people did these hidden doors. I would say that one of the biggest steps that I skipped, and if I were to do this again, I don't know if I would necessarily do this. These openings, these doorways are pretty small. I am 5 feet tall. You can see I can reach the top. They're not tall. And I didn't want to lose any more space by building a door jamb. It makes it easier because then the door that you're building fits in perfectly and you don't have to worry about something being uneven or something not being level. It just makes it a little bit easier. However, these spaces already were trimmed out with like really nice trim. Anyways, you live and you learn. I don't know what I would do again. I still love this trim look, so I saved money by not ripping it out and rebuilding it from the ground up, but I did make it harder for myself because I had to create these designs to fit into the space that I had. With these doors, since I did not build my own jamb, I just made sure that the floor was level. I made sure that the upper threshold was level and then the sides. So that was step 1. Then I bought the hinges. The hinges were the biggest piece of this for me because Murphy door, the brand Murphy door, has a set of hinges that makes this concept so much easier. They all operate very similarly, but the Murphy door hinges don't have to be notched out necessarily. You can just attach them. If you need to move them, you can move them. I found these IKEA Rast dressers. I have yet to build my own drawers. They intimidate me a little bit. I am such a perfectionist, even with these. That's why it's taken me so long. Every little imperfection drives me crazy. And so the reason that I use IKEA sometimes, especially for drawers, I don't have to build them myself. So these are IKEA Rast dressers. They were the width and the depth that I needed to make these doors. They were just the smallest I could find. So I cut a board. Before I even bought these, I cut a board that was the correct width and depth of these dressers. And then I attached the hinges to it. I put it in place and I tested to make sure that they could function, that they could pivot, open up without hitting each other or hitting the door jamb. I spent way too much time researching tops for this piece. I was hoping to find a cabinet or something that I could attach on top of the dresser to make this more semi-homemade, semi-DIY'd. I ended up building it myself because these ceilings are slanted. I wanted more surface area to attach the top piece to the bottom set of drawers. And I didn't feel I could do that with a really shallow cabinet. Not to mention, it was impossible finding the exact dimensions that I needed. So I went ahead and built it myself. I used a stair-stepping design, I guess you could say. I didn't want it to be obvious that there was a slanted ceiling behind it or really any ceiling behind it. So I made it look from the front, I made it look like it was all one depth. I did this by making sure that my backsplash was the same distance from the front of the cabinets on all levels, but I built them in boxes. From the front of the bookshelf to the backsplash is 5 inches. The backsplash I keep referring to is they're actually cabinet doors from IKEA. If you've been following along over the last few years, I've used these multiple times. I use these on a sideboard under our TV. I use these on a coffee table. They're not cheap, but they're also not as expensive. Fluting is just so expensive. That slatted look is so expensive. These are not cheap, but they're not as expensive as some of the other options out there. They're a dark walnut color. They're beautiful. So I use those as they just like inserted in the boxes. The back is left open for additional storage on the back side of these doors. Once I built my 3 boxes, I built those first and then I assembled them in place. These doors are so heavy. I wouldn't be able to hold one of these doors on my own, and I definitely wouldn't be able to carry it all the way through the house from the garage. So I assembled it in place. I brought one box up at a time. I did a dry fit first. Before using glue, I just made sure that all of these boxes could fit and there was room with the hinge up at the top to fit in there nicely and that it all functioned before adding the glue and screwing it together permanently. Trust me, out of these 8 doors, I made multiple mistakes. That dry fit is crucial because it is much easier to wind, circle back, and start over. So once I was ready to glue them in place, I used glue and screws to attach each section. And then once they were all attached, that's when I put the pin through the top of the bookshelf into the hinge that's attached onto the upper door jamb. And the door magically becomes light as air. It just swings on that hinge. That hinge holds so much weight. That is the most satisfying part, is when it finally catches and I'm not holding this, I don't know, 100-something pound door all on my own. That moment where it starts to function is the absolute best. Once both sides were assembled, that's when I got into the fun part. I was able to start the staining and the trimming out. Since I was working these doors into existing openings, there wasn't really a roadmap to follow. I knew what I wanted it to look like, but I had specific parameters to fit within. I tried out multiple pieces of trim for each area. I got little pieces and would bring them up here and try them out, make sure that the door would function. It took some trial and error, and honestly, the finishing touches probably took the most amount of time. This whole time, I'm also trying to think through, all right, how are these doors going to stay in place when they're not open? And how are they going to not swing? And how are they going to stop in the right place? So the hinges come with door stoppers. With this set of doors, the door stop worked great on one of them. And then I ended up putting a 1x6 board to cover the center opening. And that I was able to add a stopper on the other door. And so when I shut one of the doors, the inside door catches on the door catch, and then the other door closes on top of that and is caught by the inside door. I wanted it to be a pretty firm hold because these are drawers that function. I want to be able to use them. I don't want the door to open every time I pull out something from a drawer. Whenever I use IKEA, I always end up adding some sort of trim or some element to make it not look IKEA and make it look more custom. I did that. I added the picture molding around each drawer. I felt that it kind of pulled the whole thing together. It was all looking more traditional, trimmed out, a little more expensive, and so that really helped the drawers, elevate the drawers. The other thing that really elevated the drawers is the hardware. I debated, I went back and forth between a marble option and a brass option. Typically I've done brushed brass or antique bronze, which I love, but this champagne bronze is just beautiful. So guardrails, picture rails are very expensive. I found a tutorial on how to create them out of lamp parts. I will link that tutorial in the description of this video. It was very easy and way more affordable. Instead of buying a picture rail or a guardrail, I was able to find hardware for the drawers that matched back to these lamp parts that I used for the guardrail. The champagne bronze element really elevates these doors. The arch took me a long time to figure out. Honestly, every piece took some figuring out because you never know where a piece is going to hit. So every time you wanted to add trim, or in my case, the arch, you had to make sure that you put it up there, again, dry fit, maybe one nail, and that you could open and close the door without it hitting anything. But I feel like the arch really adds something special, so I'm glad I took the time to do that. So between the arch, the bronze accents, the wood tones combined with such a beautiful beige paint color, I feel like these doors look so expensive without them being as expensive as a door that you would buy with a kit. The hinges are the most expensive part, the hinges cost $300 for each opening. So these two doors cost $600 in hinges alone. The backsplash was the next largest expense. I would say that cost maybe $500. And then beyond that, the drawers were about $50 a piece, so that's another $200. And then the rest of the wood, probably around $1,500, as high as $2,000, but I'll break it down and see once, hardware, paint, everything.